Oh, we seem to have muted you there. If you can unmute yourself if you are muted. Chifiwa Chibengwa, CEO of the Tourism Business Council. Let's see if we can hear you now.
I can hear me now.
Oh, there you are. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. So Chifiwa, talk to me about your views firstly. I saw your unhappiness or maybe uncomfortability with the idea of the new strain of coronavirus being called the South African variant. Of course, it is the variant that was first discovered in South Africa. It's not in any way a South African variant. And you were pointing out how this adds to the stigmatization of the country and how this impacts on the tourism.
No, absolutely. It is one of the points that's very close to us because it talks to the brand of the country, meaning brand South Africa or SA Inc. When we start to call this virus South African variant and the international media starts to pick it up, we are left with this stigma that this virus originates from here. And everybody else forgets, where it all started, how it's going, and how we've contributed to the recovery, and also how we contributed to the scientific world in terms of sequencing, the new variant. So I think that the best thing that we have to do for ourselves here at home is to call it what it is. It's a COVID-19 variant, or call it by its full scientific name. The next thing, if we do that, we start to push the media overseas to stop calling it a South African variant. If we continue to do this, we're going to have the same thing that we had when we had the day zero situation in Cape Town, where we didn't have water, or there was a limited amount of water. Then we call it day zero, and everyone starts to pick up on that, and it became South Africa doesn't have water, and we had to find ourselves cleaning up that whole narrative after the fact. So we shouldn't be the one that's going to be left with the stigma. We need to manage this very well. We need to manage the country brand, the narrative, and what goes into the international media. Yes, we've discovered it. Let's talk about the great science that we have in the country and the capabilities that we have to do what we've done. But let's not claim this as if we're claiming something that's very important. I think in this one, we need to pass. We need to wait for things that are more significant, that will drive economic growth, and that will showcase the skills that we have in the country.
Talk about the custodians then of the brand, yourself being one of them, but largely a Department of Tourism, as well as SA Tourism itself, those who are looking at taking this brand outside. How have they fared as far as communicating our handling of the COVID-19 situation, our technology that we're putting in place, but also the science behind it? I mean, some of the work that our scientists are doing, I mean, the very same issue that the data that is coming out from AstraZeneca also comes from South Africa, and it's our own scientists who are able to pick that up.
I think one thing that we have to do is always be careful in terms of how, we communicate from government in general. We have to keep in mind that there are many sectors that are dependent on international investments, and also sectors like ours who are dependent on how we are perceived as a brand in those markets. So it's important that in whatever we do, we ensure that the communication throughout government, from the health department, the communication from other divisions of government that are responsible for what's going on, need to be able to communicate thoroughly in terms of how we position ourselves and how we showcase what we've done, but without damaging other sectors of the economy. So I think that we can do a better job, and we need to do a better job. We need to communicate effectively. We need to be the ones who start the narrative and the communication instead of defending ourselves after the fact. So it is the job of many aspects, including the DTI from the investment point of view, DECO from international relations point of view. We as tourism have been communicating, and I think that it has to be something that collectively we need to communicate effectively, and we need to manage the message, and we need to be on top of it, because we need to also be testing how our international markets are looking at us at the moment.
How are the bookings looking? I mean, talk to me about the period when the president lifted the restrictions to I suppose the news that came at this weekend that possibly the rollout of the AstraZeneca vaccine will be held back while new information is emerging, but also while we await the other vaccines which are proving to be a little bit more effective in dealing with the mild and moderate and even severe infections in South Africa.
And look, from the international point of view, the bookings are not looking, that great. Simply because if you look at the source markets, they have closed down, they're in a lockdown. If you look at the UK, Germany, you look at various European countries, you look at the situation in the US, and you look at other markets that are completely locked down. So we are not seeing any numbers that are worthy to be spoken of. And what we've been seeing is that a lot of people are looking at coming here towards late November to December, which means that we would have lost a greater part of the year. Now, having looked at that, the Northern Hemisphere is busy vaccinating their citizens. It means that we're going to have a lot more people that are going to be ready to travel in a short space of time. And if we are going to be marketing to them to come to South Africa to spend their dollars, their pounds, and their euros, we need to have the touch points of tourism vaccinated as well. So it's that important that our vaccination program goes ahead, and we make sure that we have the right vaccines, that will ensure that we start to recover economically, and also more importantly, we save the lives here at home. So it's going to be very important from the international point of view because the trust is going to be on the vaccine, as we've seen. Now, on the domestic front, we all know that the economy is not doing so well. A lot of people have lost their jobs. But what we've been saying to South Africans is that, travel with a purpose. And your purpose should be to support the tourism industry, to support the B&B, the hotels, the lodges, guest houses, and many other businesses within the value chain. We're going into Valentine's this weekend. If you have to rent a fancy car, for your partner to ride in it, go and rent. We have many car rental companies. You need to go to a spa, you need to put yourself into a hotel, a B&B down the road. Do it for the purpose of supporting the industry and supporting the jobs in the industry. That is the message that I can send, to South Africans. We are in dire need of more bookings and more support from, our own South Africans. And the prices are very good. And most of the people have slashed the prices by half and even more.
Yeah. Let's talk about that economy and the jobs being lost. So clearly, the economy is suffering. The jobs have been lost. The sector has suffered extended lockdowns. In fact, 2 or 3 of those lockdowns have hit directly at the tourism sector. What do you expect from the president, or maybe stronger words? What do you demand from the president he should say about the sector during his State of the Nation address?
Well, number one, we need to deal with the legacy issues. We still are talking about the e-visa program, which is supposed to be world-class, and the president have announced about the e-visa, I think about 2 years ago. So we need to deal with the e-visa, situation, and the whole immigration policy in terms of visa waivers to various countries. I think it will go down very well when we finally reopen fully for the international market to say that we're making it easy for them to come to South Africa. That's number one. Number two, I've spoken about the country brand that we need to deal with in terms of repositioning ourselves as a destination of choice for both domestic and international travelers. Number three, we need to support, the local, supply side of tourism. What do I mean by that? We've got many businesses that are suffering, that have not received any tourist hotels that have not been opened, and many guest houses and SMMEs that are still, closed down. We have the government guarantee loan scheme, but it's very difficult for tourism businesses to access those loans on the same rules that everyone else have, because those rules are looking into things that we may not be able to fulfill at the moment. And we need to be looked at differently as an industry that will recover in a medium to long term. And therefore, when we apply for these government guarantee loans, it's important that we do so, looking at that. Now, we also need to look at the issues of, how are we going to manage the lockdowns going forward? We may be having the third wave, as many experts have been talking about.
Yeah.
But how are we going to manage that differently than the ones that we had, last year and early this year? If we do the same things that we've been doing since last year, March and we apply it a year later the same way, we cannot expect different results. So we need to have some level of smart lockdowns that will not have a maximum disruption to the business. We need to look at most minimum. Let's make sure that those that are non-compliant are put behind bars or they are fined or whatever the harshest punishment that they can ever receive, they need to receive it.
Yeah.
We cannot have a situation where we are uncertain as to whether we will be trading in May or June because no one would want to come to South Africa if we're uncertain. So we need to build certainty. We have seen the devastation. Once we receive the little money that we receive in terms of the deposits for the bookings, we will be unable to send that money back because we have to deal with administration issues.
Yeah.
And people are working and we need to pay them salaries. So let's make sure that we bring some certainty into this lockdown, and then let's make sure that we deal with the problems where they exist.
Chifura Chibeng, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us on the Newsfeed Late Night. That's the CEO of the Tourism Business Council of South Africa.